going to talk green. We're going to talk about some of the concepts of LEED and what that means. But we're also going to tie that to the green leaf schools that all the schools here participate in. How does that work? What does that mean to you? And my personal goal of how do you take that back to the classroom? It's not just, you know, I got the lovely gold star on the wall kind of thing. It's got to be a teaching tool for me to be truly happy. So with that, take one of the, I think you might have multiples there. Pass them back. What you're seeing is the Greenleaf, Connecticut Greenleaf self-assessment tool. And Moriarty has done that tool and scored themselves. And Mary Hooker did their tool and scored well enough that we looked at them and at Barnard and said, you're nominatable to go on to the Green Ribbon Award process. And both of those schools achieved that award. And for that, it requires that a school combine what we teach in the school, the health, wellness, nutrition, air quality aspects, as well as the energy and the resources aspects of what we do in the school. But threaded through everything is what we teach in this building. So everything has that take it back to the classroom aspect to it, which is really neat. So why I'm bringing this up, gee, I've already done it, why do we care, is we're looking at schools to be watching this tool ongoing and using it as guideposts for what else we can do. Oh, we didn't score really well there, maybe that's a target possibility. Something else we can do. One of the things that we're seeing out of the schools in Connecticut, and we've got 5 now that have been recognized as Green Ribbon schools, is every one of them is saying we want to go more. We want something else. We're going to do, you know, we know we've got other things to achieve. It's not a once and done, got our award, we're out of here. So we're not seeing that, and those schools are jumping on as mentor schools to others in their areas, which is really, really cool to see. As you look through that self-assessment tool, you're going to see in the second section of it, so that goes into the second middle sheet there, is indoor air quality. We'll be talking a little bit about that, but you're also looking at Energy Star benchmarking, and that is in the back page of that, the 4th page actually in there. Energy Star rates the light bulbs you buy, the refrigerator that you were shopping for, but it also rates buildings. And the way they do that is on a 0 to 100 scale. And in Energy Star world, do you know what percentile you have to be in to get yourself an Energy Star? Anybody know? Better than how many? 95. A C wins this race, so that would be what in your class? 75. 75. So you're better than 3/4 of them. Okay, so you're in the top quartile. That gets you an Energy Star. What we found, one of the pieces that you got earlier was the Energy Efficiency of Connecticut Schools report that the Institute for Sustainable Energy had put out in 2005. So this is dated at this point. But one of the really neat things that came out of this report, as we did Energy Star benchmarking of the existing school stock, is we found that our schools weren't all that great. So coming over here to how old was your school, in 2005, we're not talking about any of these schools here. Where do you think the existing school stock was before this last batch of building that came on?
Probably 50s to the 70s.
let me describe, okay, everybody in this room falls under the baby boomer bunch, except for maybe one of us who might be skating the end of baby boomering there. Okay, but the rest of us are firmly in the baby boomer kind of thing. And when we were all born, we blew the socks off of the town school stock, and they built a bunch of schools. Now let me describe a building for you. Close your eyes. It is flat. It's got big windows on it. They face every different direction. It's got those metal sort of uprights between the windows. At some point in its life, it probably had god-awful turquoise panels on the bottom of the windows. You have a school like this in your town, don't you? You drove by 3 of them on your way to get here, probably. We still have those schools. They're flat-roofed. They may have had no insulation in them. And when we score those buildings, because we had so many built between 1960 and 1978-ish in there, on that 0 to 100 scale of Energy Star benchmarking, where do you think the average Connecticut school fell when you averaged them all together? 1,020 schools. We looked at information that led us to this. Where do you think? 26. Okay, so a 26 isn't going to win any tests. That's not a great score. What do you do with that? So your next say, you know, I'm a taxpayer in this state. I'm paying for that. That's energy money literally flying through those windows. So what do you do about that? What happened in Connecticut is we passed laws much based on the support for work that a group did, as well as this report and that kind of information pulling together, saying that we will build all schools that are taking state money. There's a couple of other criteria that go along with that, to LEED silver or equivalent, which means that you are better than code, achieving good energy standards, looking at indoor air, using daylighting. We'll talk about some of these concepts. And it was everything funded after 2009. So some of the very latest here, we're coming into that. Okay, all the schools that are coming online right now were funded after that because we had the lovely little recession that sort of bumped things off. One of the cool things that we saw happening is that that recession gave the school designers, the architects, and the builders, who weren't doing much of anything else, unfortunately, a good chance to catch up with their trade and say, okay, the next bunch is going to be a really good stock of schools. So we're seeing a lot of work going on in there. So one of the things that you can do going forward on a personal basis is make sure that when school referenda come through that you're supporting the green schools, because it's going to save you in the long run as a taxpayer, as a citizen of your town, and the people that are in those schools, so our teachers and our students that are spending so many hours in that school. It's schools that are supporting our health and wellness and using our resources wisely. So looking at that, that's why we're talking green. That's one of the reasons why these concepts are so important to us. Looking at Eastern as an example, because we're here on our campus, we're going to be looking at a few things, and they very much apply to the schools that you come from, whether it's a renovation project or something new or an opportunity there. There are a lot of different things that we look at to make a sustainable campus. Today we're going to be concentrating on the facility and the resources side of that. Okay, in 2004, our then president signed on to the Talawar Declaration. This is the same kind of thing with your Greenleaf schools. It says, my principal says, yes, we believe in schools that teach about green, that support the health and wellness of our students and staff, and also use our resources wisely. Same principle. We modeled our program, the Green Leaf program, after this. So I'm committing, I'm signing on to do this. After that, our current president, Dr. Nunez, signed on to the President Climate's commitment, which means we're actually going to do something. So it's a net zero by 2050 plan in place. So it's got some small teeth, but teeth to it. It wasn't just, oh, I believe in mom apple pie and puppies and rainbows. Okay, so there's a little more, we got to do something about this. Okay, and with the state funding, just like the schools that are tapping into that funding and everything needs to be built at LEED Silver or equivalent, state buildings got that designation a year before the school funding went in. So everything that's being built with your taxpayer dollars is being built at LEED Silver or equivalent. Right now we're going to be seeing the residential village and we're going to be seeing the science building. Those, we were in science on the orientation. We'll be walking over that way and you'll be seeing some of the green features. So just a little bit of highlight on that. These are the categories that LEED looks at, and this is what Linda was talking about earlier. We look at sustainable sites. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Water efficiency, how we use water inside and outside the building. Energy and atmosphere, so this is energy and your comfort level. Your control of your comfort that comes into that one. Lighting comes under that area. Materials and resources is where do the materials come from? What kinds of materials are we using here in this construction that we were talking about? Indoor environmental quality. So what's the air quality like in here? What's being used for cleaners? You know, what are we breathing into our lungs in this building, and what was put in this building that helps us not be ill? So that sick building syndrome that you may have heard about, mold, mildew, toxins, formaldehydes, all those lovely things that you don't, radon, you know, so all those pieces that you really don't want to be talking about in your school. And that innovation in design is the last piece of that. So we'll be talking about some of the features that show some of those aspects here on campus, and you probably have some things that were built into, especially the new buildings, that are very similar, and where I know about them, I'll call those out and say, this is a lot like what you've got at your school. So what you're looking at here, this is the entrance of Science Building. And you've got something called a bioswale, and we'll talk more about site design when Linda introduces this. I think it's the coolest feature that we've got on campus. It is so fun. It is such a neat, very organic kind of an area there. And somebody has introduced non-native goldfish, but they've survived. It's a college campus. You got to have something fun. So somebody put them into the little retention pond here that's always got water. But water, when it rains, overflows into the next and the next and the next basement, because this is the lowest point on campus. Everything flows here. Where you hardscape, you're just giving a fast route for water to run away. We'll talk more about that in the site design pieces. You look at the materials that we use on campus, and on the right hand, your left over here, sorry, on the left-hand side over here, you're seeing the entry hall that you went into for that building, and we'll be over there later today. The wood on the walls is native woods to New England. The stone on the other sides over there is a garnet-filled, slaty kind of stone that comes from New England. You see in darker pictures here, at the end of every hall, there's a little study area. Okay, and as a student on this campus in 2000, where there was no place for commuter students to really go and hang out, this is such a bonus. And when I walk through this building to go to something, there's always somebody tucked in one of those corners, whether they're talking with somebody or on a laptop and studying or snoozing in a corner. You know, it's a nice area to be, and it's got light and it's got window and it's got a view. And you see that view down every one of these hallways. So in this building, it has at least 75% of all floor spaces. Wherever I stand, I can see out of a window, as opposed to being in a cave. Okay, so that's one of the things that they strive for in these buildings. We teach about sustainability on campus, just as your schools teach about this. We watch how we use energy on this campus. We'll see some examples of the lighting that we use here. There's a small electric charging station that's not a traditional vehicle station right yet, but we're working towards that piece. And as somebody with a plug-in electric car, that would be a really nice thing to have on campus. Okay, I'm voting for it to be up by my building. I'm just saying. Okay, photovoltaics on campus. We've got some on a rooftop array, so this is a rooftop that you're seeing here, as well as on the isolated bus stops. The bus stops were put in after the electric lines were put into the streets and the roadways and whatnot. How do you light something in a retroactive way? Sometimes the cheapest way is by putting renewables on that spot. So sometimes you've got opportunities that crop up because it wasn't planned, not necessarily because it was planned. So you've got cool opportunities there. We've got a geothermal system in high-rise. We'll see that building from where we go on our walk. It's the largest, still the largest, geothermal heated and cooled building in the state of Connecticut. And they cut the energy bills in the building. So it used to be electric heat. You know how much efficiency is going on there. Okay, they changed out the building. It's now heated and cooled, uses less energy, is a year-round opportunity for us. And we'll talk about how that system works. And it's a wells, and it's an open well system. So they bring water out of those wells because they hit a huge aquifer that they did not know was as available at that time. Okay, we use the campus as a learning laboratory. We've got a natural area. It's not necessarily a botanical garden. It wasn't a traditional arboretum, but it's a natural area that our biology people, our earth sciences people, our art people use that area as a teaching laboratory, and you have those opportunities on your school grounds as well. Okay, so we're going to be looking at all of those different aspects as we start folding together the different pieces that we talk about today. Every one of them's got opportunities to save us resources and to save us money, to act as a technology teaching tool in our schools. So this is where the numbers and the data and the investigations and the comparisons and the collections can go on. In your building, you've got a great opportunity there. So we'll be talking about that and working those pieces together.